This is a weird one. I haven't been able to say I was wrong for a bit, but I was very wrong about something. I was wrong about Tailwind. I've been referring to Tailwind as an extension of CSS for a while now. I have a bunch of diagrams, and Mir, feel free to pull one up here in the edit, that show where I believe Tailwind falls. I consider it an extension of CSS and an easier way to write CSS that doesn't involve memorizing a bunch of tokens, knowing what every value is and every weird key. It's kind of like TypeScript in the sense that it auto-completes you to the right place. But what I didn't give Tailwind enough credit for, and this was entirely my bad, is how it provides building blocks for a good design system. Tailwind is way more a design system than I gave it credit for before. And that's something that I want to think a little more on and talk about today. So, where did this realization come from? Why am I suddenly rethinking how I talk about Tailwind and how I think of and use Tailwind? It was a book. And I hate plugging things like this, especially if they're not sponsoring me, because we're taking sponsors now. But this was a very good book. Refactoring UI is a book that was written by the creators of Tailwind. It's Adam and Steve are the two writers of the book. Adam Wathan, well known as the creator of Tailwind, a person who runs Tailwind Labs, and Steve Shoger, who's also a contributor. He helped build a lot of Tailwind UI. They wrote this book. It blew me away, and it really showed to me how Tailwind itself was designed and how it almost pushes you into building your own design system just by using Tailwind. I don't think you have to buy this book. I hate plugging things you have to spend money on to be a better dev. And if you're a beginner dev, you absolutely don't need this. But if you already have made some money writing software, building websites, and you want a good read to help your UIs go from good to great, this is a really good thing to have. I want to just go over the chapter previews a little bit. Now I can show you guys these additional chapters. Obviously, like the color palette in Tailwind is one of the things that's the most design system-y, because Tailwind comes with a bunch of colors that have different darkness levels that are pretty complementary. So you have these tokens easily accessible. You can type in color amber 600 and get this exact color, and know that if you use a color 400 above or below, that it'll contrast enough to be readable. That consistency is something that Tailwind worked really hard to have, and they discuss a bunch of why it's important in their book. One of the mind-blowing lines in here, here. You can't build anything with 5 hex codes. To build something real, you need a much more comprehensive set of colors to choose from. And I hadn't thought of this before, but this screenshot looks like a pretty chill Slack-like chat. The amount of different colors in this UI me up. Absolutely me up. I was not prepared, because I roast like websites and designs for this all the time for having way too many colors. But this one I would have been like, yeah, that's a good design. I did not realize there was like 14 colors in this screenshot, because they all blend in really subtly. One of the things that they discuss in this chapter is you should start by designing just gray and then add colors to accentuate from there. And the way they discuss how they picked the colors is basically gut feel, which fucked me up too. There's a really cool, does this one have the section about HSL? It does not. So they have a whole chapter about HSL versus hex and other types of color codes and how they use those to make color decisions. They had this mind-blowing chart that I can't show because it's not part of the free materials, that shows how different hues have different perceived brightnesses. And if you just go raw math, then your colors are going to contrast really poorly. And if you take advantage of knowing that people see blue as darker than they see yellow, then you can make a custom gradient level and a custom amount of darkness and lightness so that in a system, they're more complementary. I was kind of under the impression that this was just like math generated these, and I was entirely wrong. This is a design system in and of itself just for the colors, to make sure all of these colors look good together. And I hadn't thought through how difficult that was. This goes to a lot of other things as well, even something as simple as padding. Default sizes, here's their default sizes, and you can see here how it scales up. And they think this through a lot. This surprised me. I always was unsure of what the meaning of like these numbers was and how much I should think about them. But now that I better understand the goal of the system, If you use a 40 and a 12 and you use a 52 somewhere else, those will add up and complement each other well. It's weird how good these pieces feel together, and that was the goal of the design. Make it so when you use these things, if you pick a number and it's wrong, you're usually off by 1 in either direction. It's really powerful, and I hadn't thought of it in these terms until I read that book. And once again, you do not need to read the book. Just know that Tailwind is more a design system than I thought, and that book is kind of enlightening in how Tailwind came to be. As I read the book, I both felt like I was getting better as a developer who does design work, but also realized as I read through it that this was the blueprint for how Tailwind itself was made. And that was such a cool realization that these were two different strategies to lead you in the same direction. The goal being to help you build good, cohesive user interfaces where you better understand the way the user interacts with what you're building. I love this book. I love Tailwind. I was very wrong about it. It is not just a way to write faster CSS. It is a better way to design applications and interfaces for users. I was already all in on Tailwind, but yeah, you could say I've tripled it down at this point. I hope you enjoyed this video. I was hyped to make this one. Huge shout out to Adam for all of the support and sending me a free copy of the book to take a look at. This was not a sponsored video. They were not down to do even an affiliate link. Apparently they don't have a way to track those, but I did want to do this rant because my own perspective changed a lot. Hope this was helpful for you guys. I know that this was for me. Let me know if you like this video so I can do more like it in the future. Make sure that you're subscribed if you're not. The button's on the bottom there somewhere. And you should be getting recommended a new video right over there if you're not watching live, which I know all of you are right now. So thank you for that. See you in the next one.